Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Draft Expert YouTube video. I am sorry that there is no video element, or actually you can't, the fact that you can't see my face. I am sorry that there is no element of seeing my beautiful face once again. I know we had one quick video back when we did the U.S. World Cup squad prediction video, so if you want to go and check that out, I'll link that down in the description or somewhere on the screen as well. And also, in the description, you can find all the different links to all the different social media accounts. You can find it on the podcast as well as the LoganBlackmanShow.com, where you can check out the blog post for this video, which is, of course, a pre-postseason, NFL postseason mock draft. So what that means is that we're just doing the first 18 picks. We're just doing the first 18 picks. We're not doing a full-blown mock draft. As fun as that would have been, and don't get me wrong, I love doing mock drafts. I love doing mock drafts. I love the NFL draft. I love the whole process, the scouting, the film, the games, whatever it is. I love doing it. But the problem is right now is that we don't know the full order of the draft. And I don't want to go out there and predicting something from picks 19 to 32 that we don't know the order of. And though someone that's picking 28, that right now is picking 28, might pick 20th. Who the hell knows? We're going to have to wait and see, and I don't know who's picking 28th right now, so that might not happen. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but again, make sure to check out all the links down in the description below. Check out the blog post. Most importantly, there'll be more in-depth analysis in that blog post, and that will probably be on this video, but also make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up if you're already enjoying it. But again, if you're not a trusting individual and you want to hold out to the end, that's perfectly fine. I will remind you to do that at the very end. And also leave a comment down below on why you feel the way you do, whether it's positive, negatively, indifferent, whatever, what you would change about the mock draft, what your mock draft looks like, where you would have players go, whatever you want. Just let me know down in the comment section below. And without any further ado, I think we just start this thing off with the number one overall pick, which is the Las Vegas Raiders. And this one seemingly between two people. And I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit. I just got done watching Indiana beat the crap out of Oregon. I just got done watching it. This video was meant to get recorded earlier in the week, but I had absolutely no time to get it done. So I wanted to wait till the end. And the result of this game does not change my opinions about anything. But you look at what happened in this game. Indiana won 56-22. Fernando Mendoza 17-20, 177, 5 touchdowns in this game, 2 of them going to Elijah Surratt. It was a generational butt kicking. Every single way around it, it was just an ass kicking. And again, that result and how both quarterbacks played would not have changed what my thought process was on who the Raiders should select here first overall. I understand the argument, or not necessarily the argument, but the point of view of that Dante Moore has probably got a higher ceiling than Fernando Mendoza. But in that same breath, he has a lower floor as well because he's more raw. Dante Moore probably, and it's all about probably stuff. It's probably stuff. Dante Moore is he's a better athlete than Fernando Mendoza. And that's not a slight on Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza is not afraid to run. We've compared him to Daniel Jones in regard to his athletic ability, not as an overall quarterback, but his ability to run reminds me of that of Daniel Jones. Maybe like a dumbed down version of Daniel Jones. I would say he has about a 75 speed in Madden. That's what I would say is what I would give him for speed. And that's not a bad score. Dante Moore is probably about an 80-83, and he's not a scrambler. Dante Moore's not going to run around and pick up monster yards like Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or even Josh Allen or anything like that. Dante Moore does not like getting hit. Dante Moore will slide. Dante Moore will get out of bounds. He's not going to take any unnecessary hits. In that game against Wisconsin, where we're pretty sure he broke his nose, that kind of helped out in that category there as well. But Dante Moore has a little bit of a better arm, probably throws a little bit of better deep ball, throws outside the numbers, up the middle very nicely. And Fernando Mendoza is the best back shoulder thrower we've seen in a long time. And that kind of comes from the territory being an Indiana quarterback. He had Curtis Work, was really good at doing that last year. Michael Penix, even though he didn't really do it as much at Indiana, he did it at Washington, but he's a former Indiana quarterback, so we're counting it here. But Fernando Mendoza just strikes me as a Tom Brady player. Fernando Mendoza strikes me as a Tom Brady guy. He is a student of the game. He is a nerd. And though he's a nerd, and though he comes off as this unassuming character who comes up with these dorky interviews at the end of end of games and stuff, where like Kirk Cousins energy, he's not afraid to take hits. Fernando Mendoza will get thwapped right in the mouth, like we saw against Ohio State. And sure, he might take a little break here and there to catch his breath and make sure everything's still connected, but he'll go back in there and he'll still be unafraid to take hits. He did that in the game tonight, bouncing off a couple defenders while picking up about a 10-15 yard gain on the ground. He's not afraid to do that. He's tough as hell. He's smart. He's got the size, arm talent, athletic ability that you look for in a first overall pick in the draft. Is he a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes type quarterback? No. He's not that, but he is definitely the first overall pick in this draft. But if you want to go with Dante Moore for a more of a ceiling approach, then that's fine with me. But if you want a quarterback to play right now, and who is the better quarterback right now, it's Fernando Mendoza. Number 2 overall pick is the New York Jets. I'm imagining a world where they would love to have Fernando Mendoza fall right into their lap. I think it's the perfect world for the New York Jets, that Fernando Mendoza is right there. They're praying that the Raiders take Dante Moore, and that Fernando Mendoza falls right there because Aaron Glenn, the current head coach of the Jets, I don't want to say like he is the head coach because that could change at any time. I mean, we're seeing coaches fall by the wayside each and every day. So I don't want to say it like a guaranteed thing with Aaron Glenn long term. This team freaking sucked last year. And the Raiders, like, people are talking about how bad the Jets are. Like, let's not forget that the Raiders won 2 games this past year. Like, the Raiders were not a good football team in the slightest. It's just funnier because of the Jets. And everything the Jets do is funny. Just by proxy, it's funnier. It doesn't matter if what the Jets are doing is worse or better than anybody else. It's just funnier when they do it. Playoff droughts, they're funnier at doing that than everybody else out there. Not getting an interception the entire season is hilarious. Their offense sucking complete dick is hilarious. Garrett Wilson leading the team in receiving yards after not getting a single yard after week 6 and not gaining 400 yards is hilarious and such a New York Jet thing to do. So the Jets are going to get a lot of shit. They're going to have a lot of shit. And you see that throughout social media and throughout national media that Dante Moore should go back to school. And there's a very good argument and a very good case for Dante Moore to go back to school because he hasn't played that much. He doesn't have the same experience that Fernando Mendoza has. Sure, he started a couple games here and there while at UCLA, but he sat last year behind Dylan Gabriel, and now he's the starter, and he's played well. One of the best in-rhythm throwers in all of college football. He is a really good football player and would more than warrant a top 5 pick in this draft, regardless of what happened in this game. Like, this is a one-off game. Oregon did not play great against Texas Tech. Like, this is not something that is like, you saw some of the mistakes that Oregon was making, where snaps going over his head or him fumbling snaps, the interception on the very first play of the game. The only difference between this game and the Texas Tech game is that Indiana made them pay for it. Oregon didn't really make Texas Tech pay for the turnovers that they had in that game as well. Texas Tech would have a turnover, and then Oregon would do something stupid to kick them out of field goal range or out of scoring range or whatever, and then it just wound up being 23-0. It could have been worse. It could have been closer. Who the hell knows? But Dante Moore, regardless, is a good enough player to get drafted with a top 2 pick. It's just a matter of does he go back to school? Fernando Mendoza is all but guaranteed to come out. I mean, they just signed Josh Hoover from TCU. So the idea that Fernando Mendoza will go back to school, I would find it unlikely. It's not obviously out of the question completely, but I find it unlikely at this point. Dante Moore is a big question. And the reason that I'm still going to have him in the mock draft is because one of the things that I think was important for him to go back to school was Will Stein. And Will Stein's obviously becoming the head coach of Kentucky. And Will Stein, for those of you who don't know, is his offensive coordinator while at Oregon. I think that could be a big domino effect in regards to whether he stays in college or goes up to the next level. He's not transferring to Kentucky. Don't get that twisted. But I think that's a big step in that direction there as well towards the next level. And I know it's going to be scary because the Jets and their recent history of developing, or their entire history of developing quarterbacks. Most recently, Sam Darnold, 3rd overall pick, 2018, did nothing with the Jets, was low on confidence the entire time, did not have any faith in himself. Now he's quarterbacked 2 different teams to 14-win seasons. And Zach Wilson, that was its own thing, but they couldn't develop Zach Wilson. Like, they just have a recent history and just an overall history of not being able to develop quarterbacks. So I understand the fear, but it's not like the Raiders have had this grand history of developing quarterbacks. Well, they got Derek Carr. Cool. Apart from that, they don't really have that grand history of that either. So we can bash the Jets as much as we want. And again, it's funnier because it's the Jets, but let's not act like the Raiders are this perfect franchise as well. Now, would I rather go to the Raiders than the Jets? Yeah. Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, Max Crosby, $100 million in cap space. Yeah, I would much rather go to the Raiders than the Jets at this point in time. I would much rather do that. But these aren't two like great franchises, and that's what happens when you're a bad team and you're a really good quarterback. You're going to get drafted by a really bad football team. So all these people talking about Dante Moore should go back to school, demand the Jets don't draft him, I think it's stupid. I don't think that's Dante Moore's character either. I don't think he's someone that would go out there and openly do that. And for the people that are like, Dante Moore needs a guarantee from the Raiders, if they can guarantee they're going to draft him, then you go. If they can't do that, then stay in college. But what kind of stupid logic is that? Because the Raiders can tell you whatever they want. They can tell you straight to your face they're going to draft you. That does not mean they're going to do that. Because if you want a franchise quarterback, the hardest position to evaluate in all sports, would you rather have just one option, or would you like to evaluate more than one option? Because what if Dante Moore ends up being your guy and you like him more than Fernando Mendoza? Obviously, that's hard to see at this point in time, but still, you would rather have the two options than just the one. So they would obviously tell them they're going to draft him. I'm pretty sure that Ryan Pace told Mahomes they were going to draft him. John Fox went into the draft thinking they were going to draft Jamal Adams. They ended up trading up one spot to draft Mitch Trubisky. And they can tell you whatever the hell they want. That does not matter. You cannot take a word of what these teams say to your face as law, as gospel, as whatever you want. So that whole narrative is just stupid in itself. If Dante Moore declares to the draft and the Jets are picking at 2, Dante Moore will more than likely go to the New York Jets. And I don't think that's a bad move. Because one thing I can guarantee you is that the Jets will remain bad if they don't have any semblance of a plan at the quarterback position. Because I can tell you this right now, Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, and Brady Cook is not a long-term solution at the quarterback position at any team, let alone the New York Jets. But again, it's funnier because it's the New York Jets. It's, again, by proxy, it's just funnier. It just is. And there's no explanation behind it. It's just funnier. And you know what? I think Tyrod Taylor would be the perfect bridge quarterback for the Jets and Dante Moore. I think Tyrod Taylor would be the perfect guy to have in place to have Dante Moore learn from, should he come out. But again, we don't know that for certain yet. By the time this video comes out, he might have said that he's staying in college. And I would completely get that, and he'd probably be the first or second quarterback off the board next year. But I can guarantee you this, he'd be a second overall pick, or maybe even first overall pick, depending on who you ask, this year. We can know that for a fact at this point in time. At worst, top 5. Top 6. We'll lower it down to the Browns. So at worst, top 6. We don't know what next year is going to provide. You look at players like Drew Aller, who went back to school, who could have been a top 5 pick to the Cleveland Browns had he come out last year. Now, Lord knows where Drew Aller is going to wind up. His play wasn't great, but then you got the ankle injury as well. So it's like, where the hell is he going to go? You can't guarantee any of that. What we do know is that he'd be a top 6 pick this year. And I don't want to sit here and just keep rambling on and on about that. If he's available, the Jets will take him. I know there's no guarantee the Jets take a quarterback here because the Jets might want to go to next year. But if last year's anything to go off of, waiting until next year's not always the greatest option here. But third overall, the Arizona Cardinals. This one's where the draft kind of starts for most people because I think we can all agree that we think that the Jets are going to draft a quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals are a team that if everything was available to them, they would draft a quarterback. They fired Jonathan Gannon. Kyler Murray's era in the desert is seemingly over. They're wanting a quarterback of the future. They're keeping Monty Osenfort there. A new quarterback will be there. What they do with Kyler Murray, I don't know. I've seen some people talk about him going to the New York Jets, and then they trade up with the Jets to take the second pick, and they take Dante Moore. I've seen that. I don't know if there's any validity to that, but it is an option out there. I have a hard time seeing that one happen, but again, anything is freaking possible. Absolutely anything is possible. But if you don't take a quarterback here, right tackle is a main option here. Kelvin Beachum, Jonah Williams are both free agents this offseason. And Kelvin Beachum, I believe, is 36 years old as well. So you're not going to re-sign him and not have a contingency plan in place there. So you're looking at Spencer Fanu from Utah. You got the Miami tackle in there as well, Moigoa. Like, you've got options there at third overall. You could also go after one of the edge rushers. You could look at Ruben Bain, Keldrick Falk, David Bailey. You could draft Arvell Reese, the linebacker edge rusher combo, the gadget player. There's a lot of different directions the Arizona Cardinals can go, and you want to know what I'm going to wind up doing? And this might sound ridiculous. I'm going to have them taking Ty Simpson. And it's not because I am sitting here pounding the table for Ty Simpson. If you've listened to the show long enough or listened to these videos long enough, you know that I do like myself some Ty Simpson. He was the number one quarterback in this draft class for a vast majority of the season, in my opinion. The problem is his play the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season, not including the SEC championship game and the playoff game against Indiana. He didn't play very good at all. The game against Auburn, he went, what was his numbers in that game? He had 3 touchdowns, but he had like 117 yards passing because all of his touchdowns came within, I'm pretty sure, 3 to 6 yards. Like, they weren't impressive plays. The Eastern Illinois game, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, that being said, he did have a lot of throws, and there are a couple throws in that game. I should say a lot. He only played a half, but he had a couple throws in that game to set up rushing touchdowns. And the 2 interceptions that he had, one was a Hail Mary at the end of the first half, and the first one came where he just didn't see the defender. It was a bad pick. I'm not defending it, but it wasn't like, I don't know, he just soft-tossed it up. Maybe you could say he did. Maybe you could really say that. But I do think there's like some, I don't want to say revisionist history, because the last time, it's kind of like, what have you done for me lately type thing, and Ty Simpson, what have you done for me lately, is not the greatest. It's not really what you look for in a guy where you draft 3rd overall. In the biggest games of the year, the SEC championship game in the second round of the college football playoff, you want your quarterbacks to step up, and he just didn't play very good. But in that same breath, Alabama got their asses kicked in both of those games. Georgia and Indiana, they got their asses handed to them. Alabama was a good football team, but they weren't a team after probably the South Carolina game where you looked at and said, that's a national championship winning team right there. Ty Simpson was playing as one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but that team alone was not good enough to win them a national championship or go far in the playoff, and that's what happened when they played Indiana. There were some people that were saying they shouldn't even have been in the playoff after what they did in the SEC championship game, because I can promise you the performance they put up there is not indicative of what the score actually was in that game. It was way worse than what that game suggested. But Ty Simpson, again, talked about this before, Ty Simpson makes the most NFL-level throws out of anybody else in this draft class. His anticipation is really, really good. His pocket awareness and pocket mobility is the best in this class, arguably. His pre-snap recognition, his play IQ is clearly there. You can tell he's a coach's kid. You can clearly tell he's a coach's kid. He's also not afraid to make plays with his legs. He throws his body into situations. He's a tough-ass kid. The problem is his deep ball is not the greatest. He's a fearless quarterback when it comes to throwing the ball across the middle of the field, and when everything's linked up, he is deadly accurate. But the problem is sometimes things start to wane on him, and you kind of saw that after week 9 with the back injury, where things started to wane on him a little bit. His accuracy started to wane on him a little bit. If his accuracy was more consistent that back half of the year, we wouldn't even be having a conversation about this being the pick here. We'd be more talking about him being available here if that hadn't waned on him. But the fact of the matter is it did. So there's going to be people concerned about it. And why I have Ty Simpson going this high, other than what I think he can be as a player, is the fact that there's a lot of teams in this first round that could take quarterbacks. And you don't want to be that team that thinks you can get him later. Because the Cardinals, I believe, have the 34th pick in the draft. You don't want to think you can get him later. Especially, this one's going to be the big kicker here, is the fact that the LA Rams, your division rival, who have a 37, soon-to-be 38-year-old Matt Stafford at quarterback, are going to be in the market for a young quarterback. And they pick, right now, they pick 13th and 29th. You're going to tell me that Ty Simpson couldn't go to either one of those places there? You also got the Cleveland Browns at number 6, who definitely could draft a quarterback. You look at the Miami Dolphins at 11, could definitely move for a quarterback. The Jets, they could take him at 16 if they really wanted to. There's a lot of different avenues. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who currently picked 21st, could be another option. You don't want to be that team. Is it an overdraft? At this point in time, yeah, you would say it's an overdraft. I'm not sitting here saying like this is an obvious no-brainer pick and Ty Simpson should be a top 3 pick regardless of what you think. But the fact of the matter is he did do some good things on tape. He had some really, really, really good moments that warranted him being the first quarterback off the board. And if the Arizona Cardinals need a quarterback, Monty Ossenfort, according to reports, has taken a liking to Ty Simpson. And usually when it comes to the NFL draft, the things you hear first in the offseason are things that are most true, because the closer you get to the draft, the more lying there's going to be. And if Ty Simpson's right there, I would not be shocked if the Cardinals got their guy at 3. Do they have other holes in the roster? Yes, namely right tackle. But like I said, you're not going to go anywhere as a team if you don't have a quarterback. And the big concern is with Ty Simpson, the same thing with Dante Moore. He does not have a lot of starts. The success level for quarterbacks that have very minimal starts is not high. Like, just look at Mitch Trubisky and Anthony Richardson as prime examples of that, of quarterbacks who came into the NFL with very limited college reps and had major success in the NFL. It's not common. It's not common. But I would say Ty Simpson plays like a guy who is above that. And I think the Cardinals should go out there and get a bridge quarterback in there so he can sit for a little bit and learn and then take over. But in the same breath, he could go back to school. Same with Dante Moore. Because if you look at Cam Ward, if you look at Carson Beck, they were two guys that declared for the draft as well and ended up transferring and going to somewhere else, both going to Miami, ironically. So maybe Ty Simpson's gearing up to go to Miami. But I think Ty Simpson's good enough to get drafted, but I personally would have him go back to school. I personally would have him go back. But if he doesn't, I would not be shocked if this scenario played out. And I'm not sitting here saying that this should happen, and if you're stupid if you think otherwise, but it's definitely a scenario that's plausible, especially given the landscape of the quarterback position in this draft and what the NFL is looking like right now. If you want your guy, take him. In 2019, the New York Giants did that with Daniel Jones, taking him 6th overall. They had the 17th pick, but they took him 6th because they didn't want to risk anybody taking him at 17. Like, sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to overdraft your quarterback because if he hits, guess what? You got a franchise quarterback. You got the most important position in sports figured out. If he hits. If he doesn't, then okay, you're back to the drawing board, but hey, you don't have a lot of stock invested in him anyways because he's a rookie. You can move on from him. You can get other guys in there. Lord knows. And again, I'm not sitting here going like this needs to happen, this should happen, or anything of the sort. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and I think if it was were to start right now, I do think there's a very good possibility that the Arizona Cardinals could take him 3rd overall. As for the Tennessee Titans, who took a quarterback last year, the first team we're not going to tell you about a quarterback. Cam Ward was very solid given the supporting cast and given the team that he was on this past year. I'm not going to sit here and act like he was amazing or a world beater or anything, but he made some pretty wow plays throughout his rookie year given the circumstances. The main thing you want to get Cam Ward, though, or a young quarterback, is weapons around him. I know the Titans could use a defensive end. Ruben Bain's going to be widely linked here. Arvell Reese, if he becomes available, he's going to be widely linked here. But you need to get your quarterback some weapons. Shamir DK, Io Manor, they are good rookie receivers. They're good young receivers, but neither one of them at this point in time, you would sit there and tell me, are an alpha number 1 wide receiver. Yes, you have Calvin Ridley there. You brought in Tyler Lockett this past offseason. But none of those guys are going to be your number 1 guys on this roster going forward. You need to get Cam Ward a guy. If not, get one of the top edge rushers. But right now, if you're taking a receiver, you're taking Carnell Tate, who's probably, depending on who you ask, the number 1 receiver in this draft class. And I know it might be a little bit of an overreach, and I think it's kind of scary, the fact that he's the number 2 guy at Ohio State, and everybody knows Jeremiah Smith. Everybody knows Jeremiah Smith. Everybody knows he's one of the, if not the best receiver in college football. He just won the Big Ten Receiver of the Year. So the amount of attention that Tate will get just by proxy is going to be way less with Jeremiah Smith being there. And I'm not sitting here saying Carnell Tate cannot be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. He's 6'3", 195 pounds. He's got good size, averaging 17.5 yards per catch, which is ridiculous. Just a really good deep threat in there. And yeah, he's a very good receiver. And if the Titans want to surround Cam Ward with some weapons, Carnell Tate would be my move there. As for number 5, the New York Giants, there's really 2 options here. There are 3 options if you really want to. The third option, which I don't think will happen, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, is a defensive tackle. The Giants' run defense stinks, and Dexter Lawrence just can't do it by himself. So get another D tackle like Peter Woods, Cade McDonald, 2 guys that could re-up the rush defense for the Giants. But the main 2 things you want to do, we said the same thing with Cam Ward, is surround your young quarterback with weapons. Jackson Dart had a really good rookie year, 24 total touchdowns to his name this season. The problem is he has 0 regard for his own well-being. That is not something that's sustainable at the NFL level. And it's something that needed to get coached out of him while at Ole Miss, because he tried to do this same shit at Ole Miss. But it's different doing it to 18-year-olds than it is to doing it to 30-year-olds. You're going to get your head taken off, which he did. And the problem is his backfield mate, Cam Scatterboo, is a bad influence on him because he does the exact same shit. So they're just going to keep talking to each other, talking about how I can't feel my face. And it's like, yeah, I can't feel my arm. And it's just not a great relationship here. Jokes aside, I do like Jackson Dart. I do think he's talented. I don't know how long his NFL career will be. And so when you look at what the Giants need, the two things that pop up right away are right tackle, because they have Andrew Thomas at left tackle. He's one of the better left tackles in the NFL. And again, we've talked about it. Fanu, Maligoa from Miami. These are two guys that are available that both are natural right tackles. Do they go with one of those guys there, or do they go with one of the wide receivers? Based off what I've seen the most of from everything else, right tackle could be a realistic option here, but I'm going to say they draft a wide receiver. I'm going to have them drafting Jordan Tyson, who had some hamstring problems this past season, has had some extensive injuries throughout his time at Arizona State. If his medicals check out, then there's a real conversation about him being the first wide receiver off the board. And I think they will. And I think Jordan Tyson is one of the best receivers when it comes to catching 50-50 balls or making circus catches. You see some of the plays that he made for Sam Levitt this past season alone, even though their time together was pretty short, he still made some ridiculous catches this past season. And he's a former teammate of Cam Scatterbo. And you know those former relations, I don't know if they were really close throughout their time at college or anything, but hey, those relationships, former teammate and all that stuff, I think is good stuff there. I think it's a really good spot. And he would give the Giants another option on the outside to pair with Malik Nabers, who's coming off the torn ACL. Wan'Dale Robinson put up 1,000 yards this year, but he had like 900 catches. So you need a guy like Tyson next to Nabers to give Dart another weapon on the outside. But again, a tackle, Fanu, Maligoa, those two guys are two people that you really could look at here. But number 6, I mean, this one's as simple as it gets. In regards to position, maybe not the player, but the Cleveland Browns have no offensive line. And that's not me exaggerating or trying to like, oh my God, this grand spectacle or trying to make a point or something. They literally have no offensive line. All 5 of their starters on the offensive line are due to leave in free agency. Every single one of them. That I've never seen that happen before in my life. Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin, Ethan Pacic, Cam Robinson, and Wyatt Teller are all free agents this offseason. I've never seen that before where 5 offensive linemen could all leave. They need to draft an offensive lineman. I don't care who it is. And I've seen people talk about drafting a wide receiver. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. 2 guys I think could be realistic options here as well. Like the Giants, it's tackle or receiver, but they literally have no offensive linemen. So I'm going to go with the Miami tackle here, who's an absolute mauler. There's some people that talk about he can flip inside to guard, 6'6", 315 pounds. He is a natural right tackle. He does play right tackle at Miami. He's a really consistent tackle. And the thing that I love about tackles like this, he's a mauler. I don't know if I said that a little bit ago, but he's an absolute mauler. And he takes the fight to the opponent. He doesn't wait for the defensive end to come to him. He attacks them. Even in pass pro, he comes to them. And I think that's something that the Cleveland Browns desperately need on their team, of people that want to take the fight to them. They got Myles Garrett, 23 sacks this year. Awesome, but that's about it. Denzel Ward's also there. Great corner, but that's about it. The Browns literally have nothing else really going for them. They don't even have a head coach at this time. And Andrew Berry's still allowed to construct this roster for some reason, even though he's the orchestrator of the worst trade in NFL history. And yet somehow he's still here. I don't know what happened there. But Francis Maligoa from Miami to the Cleveland Browns at number 6. Number 7, the first defensive player off the board. Washington Commanders take Arvell Reese from Ohio State. Arvell Reese, depending on who you ask, might be considered the best player in the draft. Most naturally gifted player in the draft. Naturally a linebacker. That's what he's listed as, a linebacker. Only played a certain number of snaps. I want to say like 95 to 100 snaps at edge rusher this year, but his ceiling suggests, and his pass rushing ability suggests, that he could be an edge rusher at the next level, similar to that of Micah Parsons, which ironically, the head coach of the Washington Commanders was the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys when Micah Parsons got drafted into the NFL 12th overall. And Arvell Reese is somebody, again, that could go a lot sooner than this. He could go top 3. He's not going to go 1 or... He could go to the Jets, I guess. He could go top 2, really, if he wanted to say that. But the problem is gadget players. I don't want to use the word gadget player. That's a very negative sounding term, especially for a player as good as Arvell Reese. I'm going to say somebody who doesn't have a position yet at this point in time, where no one really knows if they want to keep him at linebacker or they want to keep him at edge rusher. Those players tend to fall a little bit further than what their talent suggests. Look at Micah Parsons, like we brought up before, going 12th overall. I know there were some character concerns off the field stuff that also helped him fall down a little bit there as well. But then you also have Jalen Walker last year. Linebacker, edge rusher. Which one is he? We don't know. He falls all the way to 15. He was a guy that was talked about being a top 10 pick. I know I had him going 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers. And he ended up going 15th to the division rival Falcons. And I'm sure right now he wished he went to the Panthers, but I'm pretty sure the Panthers are fine taking Teteroa McMillan, 1,000-yard receiver in his rookie year. I'm pretty sure they're perfectly fine with that. But the Commanders need playmakers and young, dynamic playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. No more of these old guys. We're going back to the early 2000s Commanders. Redskins. We need some playmakers. I say we. They need some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, and Arvell Reese is the playmaker in this draft on the defensive side of the ball. Number 8, the New Orleans Saints. This one, it was an interesting one because I flipped back and forth 1,000 times on this one too. Defensive end was something that I really thought of, and I know like Chase Young had a little bit of a career resurgence this past year down in New Orleans. But you can never have too many players on the defensive line. And you have Cam Jordan still there, who's about 800 years old. So you need to find that eventual replacement for him. And based off how this is going out, the top edge rushers are all available. Bain, Falk, Bailey, all of these guys are currently available right now. So if the Saints took one of them, I would not be shocked at all. But I've got to keep the same thing, is that you look at the Titans at 4, the Giants at 5. Getting your young quarterback pieces on the opposite side of the ball to continue their development. Tyler Shuck was awesome this past year. He was absolutely awesome this past year. And a lot of people, and we said this during the pre-draft process as well, where people were trying to compare him to Brandon Weeden because of his age, or talking about all the injuries that he had. And we kept pounding the table and saying that he's not Brandon Weeden. That's got to stop. The only thing that's similar is their age. That's it. And the injuries are not injuries. I don't remember what all exactly they were, but they're not injuries that you tend to see like repeats of. They're like freak injuries that you don't normally see happen. So it's like, I'm not really too concerned about his age because he's a much better athlete than Brandon Weeden was. Then he had to throw at the combine, which was just, why people take anything from the combine and run with it, I have no freaking clue. It's absolutely infuriating, especially when it comes to the quarterback section of it, with the throwing section of it. Like, it's just stupid. It's absolutely stupid. But Tyler Shuck was awesome. The Saints had a complete 180 team when Tyler Shuck came in at quarterback. They were 1-7 to start the season. Yes, they didn't finish with a great record, but hey, starting 1-7 and finishing 6-11, you take those. You take those. And there's going to be some questions around the receiving room with the Saints, especially with Chris Olave having the blood clot. There's going to be a lot of questions around there. He's had a lot of concussions as well throughout his NFL career. So do you get another receiver after you trade Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks midway through the season? Like, what do you do there? At this point, I could see a reality where they take Mekhi Lemon. I really could. But at this point in time, as things stand, I think they lean another direction on the opposite side of the ball and get a running back in Jeremiah Love, because throughout his career, Alvin Kamara has been one of my favorite running backs in the NFL. Absolutely loved him. Even though he's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season in his career, I have loved watching Alvin Kamara for what he could do in both the run game and the pass game. One of the most dynamic running backs in the NFL. One of the most dangerous running backs in the NFL. He ain't no small dude either. He's a good-sized running back as well. And I loved watching him, but he's getting older. And the Saints' run offense was non-existent. And the thing with Jeremiah Love is that you're not just getting a player that can make plays in the run game, you're getting a player that can also make plays in the pass game as well. One of the best pass-catching backs in this draft. 6 foot tall, 214 pounds, big dude, 1,300 plus yards rushing this past season, 18 touchdowns, 280 yards rushing, at 3 more touchdowns there as well. He's just a dangerous player. And for how big he is, 6 foot 214, is super explosive. For 60 missed tackles this past season. Like, he's just an all-around gamer and could go way higher than this. He could realistically go in top 3. If he went to the Cardinals at 3, I wouldn't be shocked. I've seen that a lot recently. It would not shock me if that would be the case. But right now, sitting here at 8 with the New Orleans Saints, just getting playmakers for Tyler Shuck, if he's available, take him. I know that's not necessarily in Mickey Loomis's repertoire of taking players like this. He loves to address the trenches early. He loves to do that. We talked about that last year. Whether it be Kelvin Banks or Mykel Williams, they want to address the trenches early on in the draft. There was a stretch where their offensive line was all players they drafted. That could be the case now. Like, he wants to go that direction. But you also got Tyler Shuck and you got Kellen Moore, who came from Philly with Saquon Barkley there. I'm not comparing Saquon Barkley and Jeremiah Love, but he could provide a similar-ish spark to the Saints offense that Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying like Saquon Barkley, he's going to become that. I'm not even directly comparing them as players. I'm just talking about the impact that he could have on the offense. Implementing that kind of player into this offense could take it up another level and just elevate Shuck even more. I think it'd be very fun to see. So I have him going number 8. And what else was nice, he keeps him away from the freaking Kansas City Chiefs. Keeps him away from the Chiefs. The Chiefs have no weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They have no running game. They brought Kareem Hunt back because Isaiah Pacheco couldn't stay healthy. And then the receiving room, Rashee Rice is in more trouble. I'm not going to get into that at all, but he's in more trouble this offseason. They can't find any consistency there. They can't find any consistency on the offensive line either, whether it be injuries or just overall play. They can't find anything there. But the problem is, and again, another play, we brought him up with the Saints pick. They could draft Mekhi Lemon. They could do that. I don't know if they will, because again, the Saints in recent years have addressed the defense early on in the draft. That's been their MO in the draft process. They're kind of like, well, we'll build the defense up, and Mahomes and Andy Reid can figure out the offense altogether. Now, there could be a reality where Kenyon Sadiq goes here, or maybe not here exact pick, maybe a trade back and you take him. Could replace Travis Kelce because there's a chance that he retires this offseason. So you're just going to have to wait and see on that. So there's a lot of different things the Chiefs could do on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball was a problem area as well. They were not good on either side of the ball this past season. They won 15 games last year. They won 6, I think, this year. And I'm not going to sit here and gloat. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is the norm. It's not. I'm aware of that. I'm not going to sit here and be celebratory and all that, like, screw you, Chiefs. I mean, I will. But I'm not going to sit here and do that for too long. I'll eventually move on and stuff like that. But I think the Chiefs right now, I think they go after a defensive end. And I think Ruben Bain, I flip back and forth a lot between Ruben Bain and Keldrick Falk from Auburn, because these are two guys that I look at and they seem like Kansas City Chiefs style defensive ends. David Bailey, you could make an argument, is better than both of them, or has a higher ceiling than both of them, but he's more of a natural outside linebacker speed rusher, where these guys are more power-based guys. Keldrick Falk is 6'6", 285 pounds. Ruben Bain is 6'3", 275. So he's not as big or as lengthy as Keldrick Falk, and that question about his length, his arm length in particular, is going to be something to watch out for. Maui Goa, the tackle we had going to the Browns, he's another guy that is going to have those conversations as well, which is why people have talked about him moving inside the guard. But we're moving on. We've moved on from that. But Ruben Bain has just been an absolute problem for Miami this season. The main guy on one of the best defensive lines in college football, one of the main reasons why they're in the national championship, is because of Ruben Bain. He's just all over the place. And his power that he has at the position, both rushing inside and outside, causes so many problems for opposing defense. Bend, power, speed, all that stuff. He puts it all into one and just is an absolute game wrecker from the defensive line. Absolute game wrecker. And should the Chiefs go this direction here, go defensive end here, I think that he would be the guy that they go. Again, I flip back and forth between him and Falk. I'm going with Bain right now. But it would not surprise me with the ceiling of Falk, because Falk's one of the youngest players in the draft. I'll talk about him here more in a little bit, but he's one of the youngest players in the draft. I believe he's 20 years old. He's got a really high ceiling, but he doesn't have the production. Bain's got the production, maybe not to an insane level. Like David Bailey got 14.5 sacks this year. He doesn't have 14.5 sacks, but he's ultra disruptive. He just doesn't have the length. So that's the part you're going to have to work with here. So I've got Bain going here, but it would not surprise me if Falk went here as well. Number 10 to the Bengals. Defense. I don't care who it is. Just get a defender. And if he's available here, Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, if he were drafted here, would be the first safety drafted in the top 10 since Jamal Adams in 2017. Safeties do not get drafted in the top 10. But the Bengals, like we talked about the Commanders, just need playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. They drafted Shamar Stewart last year. That hadn't really worked out yet. They could draft a defensive end. Could draft a defensive lineman. Peter Woods from Clemson could be an option here. We talk about Falk. Bain could also be an option here should he be available. But if in the corners, you got Mansour Delane from LSU, Gerard McCoy. Like, these are two guys that could also be available for the Cincinnati Bengals. But Caleb Downs is just an overall gamer. And again, kind of like we talked about with Reese, depending on who you ask, could be one of the top 3 players in the entire draft. It's just a problem he plays safety. That's it. I mean, the Bengals, though, it don't matter if he's a safety. He can play anywhere along the defensive side of the ball. And They just need playmakers. Last year, the Bengals allowed 6.2 yards per play. That's not good. And when I was reading Jordan Reed's thing, Caleb Downs in coverage allowed 3.6 yards per pass attempt when teams targeted him. He just has excellent instincts. He's able to diagnose plays without a second hesitation. And I think the Bengals just need guys like that on the defensive side of the ball. They just need playmakers there. The offense isn't the thing that's slowing them down. They can score with anybody. But it's a lot easier if your defense is giving up 20 points a game than 30 points a game. And I don't know the exact number with the Bengals, but it can't be far off of 30. That's just what they do. And they brought in Algo and they got rid of Lou Amarino, who was arguably the best coach on that staff anyways. They got rid of him. He got scapegoated there. They brought in Al Golden from Notre Dame, and the defense just wasn't very good last year. But that was just going to happen. The Bengals defense just isn't good. For some reason, Zach Taylor's still the head coach. I don't know how that's still a thing, but that's not my thing. They made a Super Bowl 10 years ago, so he has a leash on there. Doesn't matter if he's missed the playoffs each of the last 3 years. Obviously, I know the Super Bowl wasn't 10 years ago. I know that, but it feels like that. Number 11, we have the Miami Dolphins. And this is one where you could kind of go a couple different directions. I don't want to go like, oh, they need to draft a quarterback or will draft a quarterback. I don't know what exactly they're going to do at the quarterback position because they fired Mike McDaniel. And I don't know about all of you, but that was a kind of surprising move because it felt like earlier in the offseason or right after the regular season ended, or towards the end of the regular season, I guess I should say, it felt like they were choosing Mike McDaniel over Tua Tagovailoa. And it was like, okay, where's Tua going to be? Mike McDaniel, what kind of quarterback is he going to get? Is Quinn Ewers going to get an extended opportunity to be the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins? And the Ravens fire John Harbaugh. So now there's an opening with Harbaugh. Now they're linked with him. And once he becomes available, the Dolphins are like, well, we're going to move on from Mike McDaniel. So now we don't know where McDaniel's going to go. We don't know what the future of the Miami Dolphins is because there's so many... His fingerprints are all over the offense and what they want to do. All built on speed, crossing routes, quick outs from the quarterback, get the ball out quick. That's what Mike McDaniel wants to do. And I'm intrigued to see if Harbaugh or whoever, I guess I shouldn't nail down that Harbaugh's going to the Dolphins, but whoever that comes in as the head coach, what they want to do with the quarterback position in general. And this is why we brought up Ty Simpson before, who could be an option here for the Miami Dolphins should he be available. But the two things that I look at with the Dolphins in particular are their biggest needs, in my opinion, are the secondary and along the offensive line. The Dolphins secondary is not very good. They traded Jalen Ramsey to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't really have a lot there. They don't really have a lot working for them in the secondary. Their safeties aren't very good. I mean, they were heavily reliant on Jordan Poyer a year ago, and they never really went on to anybody to replace the aging wonder that is Jordan Poyer. And he was not very good for the Dolphins last year. I'm not sitting back here and acting like, oh my God, he's so amazing. They did bring in Minkah Fitzpatrick, but he hasn't really done a whole lot this year, at least that I've been made aware of. The corners aren't very good. So you look at Rasul Douglas, former Buffalo Bill Rasul Douglas. He was arguably the Dolphins' best corner this year. He'll turn 31 before next season starts. And he had 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles this season. He was playing in the nickel spot. So the Dolphins getting a corner, you're looking at McCoy from Tennessee, Delane from LSU. You could possibly look at it, Caleb Downs as well, should he become available here in the secondary. But the Dolphins, one of their big issues for the past however many years has come along the offensive line. They have never had a real consistent unit in front of Tua or any of the quarterbacks they've had. And they've tried to make moves to bring guys in. I mean, they drafted Austin Jackson. They kind of overdrafted Austin Jackson from USC because he was the youngest player in the draft, or at least one of the players, and I believe that was the 2020 draft. He was one of the young guys there, and you could see the potential there, what he was doing at USC. And he's rotated between each tackle spot. He's rotated at guard a little bit, and I believe he's a free agent next offseason. So they're going to need to find someone there. Patrick Paul's been all right at left tackle. He's been actually fairly solid for where he was drafted and what the expectations were on him going into the season. Because if you remember the draft, this past year's draft, it's like, oh, the Miami Dolphins could really look at an offensive tackle here. But there's a lot of Dolphins people and people in the organization and fans are like, they have full faith in Patrick Paul. And I don't want to say that faith wasn't. I feel weird saying oh, they were vindicated and saying that makes it sound like he was this all-pro, all-world left tackle. He was a good tackle this year for the Dolphins and was the best offensive lineman in a bad group of offensive linemen for the Miami Dolphins. So I'm going to go with Spencer Fano from Utah, the Outland Trophy winner. Fano, the big knock on Fano right now is his frame. He's not the biggest dude in the world. He's a monster. Comparatively to you and I, he's an absolute monster. He's 6'6", 302 pounds. But 302 pounds in the modern day of the NFL for offensive tackles is not very big. You're going to want him to bulk up his frame a little bit. There's going to be questions about his length in there as well. There's people talking about him, like we talk about Maligo, moving inside the guard. There's those types of questions here. But in the 3 seasons he started at Utah, one of them was at left tackle, just first year, and then he started the last 2 seasons at right tackle. So he would slide right in there effortlessly. And like we talked about before, Austin Jackson's rotated at guard across the past however many years now. So you slide him inside the guard or kick him inside the guard, start Fanu. Lomu's the other Utah tackle. He's the left tackle. Fano at right tackle. You give some stability to the Miami Dolphins offensive line, which is in desperate need of it, and then you start kicking in that new era of Miami Dolphins football, and whichever direction that goes, Fano would be a very good place to start with that. But again, I could see a corner, I could see a safety, a secondary piece, whatever. I could see either one of those there for the Dolphins at 11. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. They need defenders. There's no problems really on the offensive side of the ball. There's no real problems. Javonte Williams was a very good get from Denver. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens were arguably the best receiving duo in the NFL this year. Dak Prescott stayed healthy and played great this past season. All of the problems on the Dallas Cowboys are on the defensive side of the ball. The Cowboys this year ranked 2nd in the NFL in total offense, with Dak ranking 3rd in the league in passing yards and 4th in the league in passing touchdowns, with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens both having over 1,000 yards. As for the defense, they ranked 3rd to last in yards allowed per game, which is also ranking dead last in passing defense and scoring defense. The Cowboys need to fix the defensive side of the ball. They brought in Quinnen Williams. They brought in Logan Wilson via trades. They just still need to add more pieces on that defense. Cornerback's going to be a big option, especially after they cut Trayvon Diggs. Not acting like Trayvon Diggs was this otherworldly corner or anything, defensive back, but that's a severe lack of depth in that position now. So cornerback, again, we're bringing it up like we did with the Dolphins. That could be an option here. Caleb Downs could be an option here. Just getting a big name player, playmaker, on the defensive side of the ball could be a nice little move for the Dallas Cowboys. Linebacker Sonny Styles from Ohio State could be an option. CJ Allen from Georgia, another option. But I think right here, the Cowboys should look after an edge rusher. They should really be looking at an edge rusher. Jadeveon Clowney's a free agent. Dante Fowler, is a free agent. You traded Micah Parsons this past offseason. You need someone to fill in one of those roles. David Bailey is right there. Texas Tech, take him here with the 12th overall pick. There's a very good chance that David Bailey's way gone by this pick. 6'3", 250 pounds, 14.5 sacks this past season, 20.1 pressure win rate, which I believe was the best in the nation this past year while at Texas Tech. Transfer in this offseason, one of the big money gets, was constantly talked about. Not that he ever had a realistic shot at winning it, but was in those conversations of a top 10 Heisman candidate throughout random portions of the season. Excellent quickness, excellent first step quickness, and can beat you off the edge. Well, he has some powerful hands in there as well. A natural outside linebacker. The Cowboys with Micah Parsons, he wasn't someone normally that would stick his hand in there. He was standing up most of the time, and David Bailey could provide that for the Dallas Cowboys, give them a real threat coming off the edge in that division. This division was some good mobile quarterbacks. You look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Jaden Daniels, look at Jackson Dart, 3 quarterbacks who can really move. The Cowboys need somebody to get after them. David Bailey, if he's available here at 12, I think it makes all the sense in the world to take him. 13. The Rams, another potential spot for Ty Simpson. Well, again, this is another reason why I had the Cardinals taking him. I'm going to keep saying this and reiterating this. It looks like an overreach. And to a lot of people out there, they would be vindicated in saying that it's an overreach. But given the teams behind them and the desperate need for quarterbacks and sometimes how desperate these GMs are to get their quote-unquote quarterback in the future, they may overdraft somebody that you and I think should go a little bit later than what they do. But the Rams at 13 could be an option here for Simpson as well, especially with Matt Stafford going to be 38 next season. He's had a great year this year. Great year. Led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. But that contingency plan with Matt Stafford and being there, with Ty Simpson having the limited number of starts that he has, sitting behind someone like Matt Stafford, I think would be very beneficial for his career. But like we talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs before, the LA Rams are another team that kind of looked towards the defensive side of the ball first in the draft. Like I remember a couple years ago when they had their first round draft pick in God knows how many years, a lot of people were expecting Sean McVay to draft an offensive guy. They drafted Jared Verse from Florida State. They lost Aaron Donald. They drafted Jared Verse. They got Fisk in the second round as well. They're a team that's kind of like the Chiefs in that regard of like, we're going to draft young defensive players to help keep continuing building up this defense who's got a lot of very young and talented players on it. But the position right now that you're looking at with the LA Rams is cornerback. You got Ahkello Witherspoon and Kobe Durant entering free agency. Darius Williams, everything that I've seen about Darius Williams, his time in LA is coming to an end, it seems like. So cornerback is there. Emmanuel Forbes is there, but that's the only real corner option you have. And when you look at the rest of this division, with the 49ers and Seahawks and the Cardinals, you got some good offenses in there, with some good wide receiver talent in there as well. Like JSN just led the league in receiving yards this year from Seattle. The 49ers, they had battled a shit ton of injuries this past year, but they're going to add some people in the offseason, you would imagine, to help rejuvenate that receiving core. So adding a corner here would be a nice move for them. And you kind of flip back and forth. This one with the Rams and which corner to take, like a Jamon McCoy, from Tennessee, is a guy that I think most people would say is the number one cornerback in this draft class, just based off natural skill set. But the problem is, he didn't play all of last year. He had a torn ACL that he got in January of 2025, so he didn't play at all this past season. So all we're relying on is what we saw 2 seasons ago in his first year at Tennessee, and he played good. He's played good throughout his time in college, but last year not playing at all, I think will be a big factor. And because of injury, not because of an opt-out, because of an injury, I think that will be a big factor on where he goes. Now, I could see teams just completely blowing past that and being perfectly content with that, and I think he'd be a very good player, but because of that, I do think the Rams would lean towards Mansour Delane from LSU, and that's no slouch. Like, I'm not sitting here going like, oh my God, we got to settle for Mansour Delane. That's not the point. Mansour Delane's a very good player in his own right as well. One of the quicker corners back in the draft. Long, fast, can play in both zone and man coverage. Excellent ball skills in there as well. Fluid hips. That's what you want in a corner. He picked off 8 passes throughout his college career. I believe he had 2 this past year. I can't remember exactly what he had last year, but in a 4-year career, 8 interceptions and 27 pass breakups. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Playing in the SEC where it just means more, I think that would be a good player for the Rams to look at with the 13th pick. But again, if you're not worried about McCoy's injury, then you could go in that direction as well and be perfectly fine with that. I think both of them are going to go in the top 18, regardless of McCoy's injury history. I think they're both top 18 draft picks. And I think that the Rams could also look at an offensive tackle here. Fanu's a guy that I've seen some people talk about, hey, you could take him here with this pick, but there's also some Rams fans out there. Warren McClendon at right tackle played pretty well this past season. So you have Rob Havenstein, who got hurt, who's been on IR, but McClendon, played well. So there's not that necessarily giant need at right tackle, but I would say those two, if you're looking at trying to figure out what to do with the Rams, I think those are your 2 options here. But I think Delane, with the defensive side of the ball, I think would be their number 1 priority, given their recent draft history, drafting defensive player as well. The Baltimore Ravens at 14. We talked about John Harbaugh getting fired. It was a surprising move, yet not a surprising move at the exact same time, because you could kind of see the writing on the wall with some of these late game decisions that were happening and some of the comments after post games. Like, I remember the Patriots game, I think it was, where Derrick Henry was torching them in the game, and they just didn't give the ball off to him. And then they asked him after the game why he's not getting the ball. He's like, we're going to have to make a change. Like, dude, you're the head coach. You can make the call on that. And apparently he got fired because he went and fired Todd Monken. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if there's more internal stuff that we don't know about. I have no clue. But it was a surprising yet not surprising move to fire Harbaugh, because he felt like a guy that was like Tomlin, where he's just going to stay there forever. But unlike Tomlin, he finished with a below 500 record this year. So that's where you kind of look at it and go, oh, well, Tomlin at least has the non-losing season record going for him, and Harbaugh's out the door. So I don't know what the Ravens are going to do on the head coaching front. Jesse Minter's going to be an option. Brian Flores is probably going to be an option there as well. Like, we don't know what they're going to do. But regardless of what it is, they need to get some people on the defensive side of the ball, most notably on the defensive line or the edge rushing department. Neither one of those units were that great last year. And you look at the edge rushers right now. Like, Kyle Van Noy is still there. 34 years old. He will be 35 in March. Like, having someone like Kyle Van Noy is a good player to have, but that's about it. And I'm pretty sure Draymond Jones as well is entering free agency. So an edge rusher here would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense for the Baltimore Ravens, but you look at the defensive line, the interior defensive line for the Ravens. You look at John Jenkins and Brent Urban, who are 36 and 34 years old. You got to keep getting that youthful vigor along that defensive line. I'm not sitting here going like, it is bad. It's just bad. You can't go into next season with guys that are going to be continuously older in a division like the AFC North that wants to be more physical, that wants to establish a line of scrimmage. You look at the Browns at pick 6, drafting Malagoa. Like, they want to improve their defensive line, or their offensive line, sorry. And the Ravens are a team that a lot of their success comes from the defensive line, having that big hog mauling in the middle of the defense, whether it's Tony Saragusa, whether it's Haloti Ngata. They need that big player in the middle of the defense or along the edges either, because they play that 3-4 defense. Again, that could change depending on who they bring as a head coach, but Peter Woods is somebody that I think makes a lot of sense for the Baltimore Ravens here. And if I'm looking at like all the top 18 picks, Peter Woods was somebody that when I filled out the order, I kind of just instantly had Peter Woods going 14 to the Baltimore Ravens. And again, there's going to be some questions at cornerback. I could see a McCoy going here as well, because the Ravens secondary did not cover themselves to glory whatsoever this past season. I know they drafted Nate Wiggins 2 years ago. I know they drafted Malachi Starks last year, but they're still needing some upgrades in that secondary as well. But I think Peter Woods just feels like an AFC North guy. He feels like a Baltimore Raven. 6'3", 315 pounds. He might have not had the production that a lot of people were expecting from him this past season at Clemson, but I think you could say that about a lot of the people at Clemson. I don't think Clemson really covered themselves in glory at all. This was a team that people expected to challenge for a national championship, for a team that could challenge but in the ACC with relative ease because of the players that they were bringing back, and they stunk. They were not very good. And you saw that week 1 against LSU, but we thought LSU was also very good too, so we kind of brushed past that. But then the next game against Troy, they're losing 16-3 to Troy. Like, okay, this team's just not very good. And they get blown out by lose to Georgia Tech, get blown out by Syracuse, and then the rest of the season kind of happens. So people are going to be looking at these guys a little bit differently. But Peter Woods, regardless of what the production is, has the talent that people, especially teams in the AFC North, would look at on the defensive line. Blends a nice mix of power and speed, causing problems to the offensive line. He's a very versatile player as well, can play both that 3-tech. He can play at the inside as well, to cause just a lot of problems in the pass rushing department and the run stopping department, because that's what they like. That's what Clemson does. He's got great burst in the run game. He's powerful in the pass game. He's somebody that I definitely could see the Ravens retooling their defensive line around if he's available here at 14. But he's somebody that right now you could really see going anywhere in the top 15. Like, I've seen people having him going to the New York Giants, and we talked about the poor run defense they've had. I've seen that. I've seen the Cincinnati Bengals at 10. Talking about they need some help along the defensive line, which they do. But if he falls here to 14, I would have a hard time believing that the Ravens would pass on him. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. The linebacker's been a position of need for the Buccaneers for the past however many years now, pretty much since Devin White flamed out in the NFL. I know he led the Raiders in tackles this past season, but that's a far cry from where he was when he first got drafted 5th overall back in 2019. That's a far cry from that. Leading the team in tackles is great. Leading the team in tackles for a 2-win team is something that not a lot of people were really like, oh my God, you see what Devin White did this past year? It was more like, oh my God, Devin White's playing for the Raiders? That's kind of what the consensus feeling was around it. And Sonny Styles is the next best linebacker after Arvell Reese. Teammate at Ohio State, former safety, could be a guy that eventually replaces Levante David. And I know Levante David's having a hard time retiring, but he's a free agent again. He'll turn 36 in January. He'll turn 36 in January, entering free agency. They need that playmaker, that baller in the middle of the defense. And Sonny Styles is a bigger dude, about 6'4", 240, 250 pounds. He's a big dude in that middle of the defense. And again, we talk about former safety, possessing excellent speed, play recognition for the position. He's more than a willing tackler, using his speed to close in on rushers before they have a second to think about it. And he creates so many negative plays. He doesn't have like the insane sack production, but he can get after the quarterback. He shows a ceiling as somebody that can get after the quarterback and create plays. And this is a division in the NFC South that is getting some good young talent in it. And you look at like Atlanta with Bijan Robinson in the backfield. You look at the Saints. We have them drafting Jeremiah Love. You look at the Carolina Panthers, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard. You got some young quarterbacks in there as well. Bryce Young, Tyler Shuck. Lord knows what the Falcons are going to do. But you would need a guy like Sonny Styles in the middle of this defense for a Buccaneers team that completely fell off the map the back half of the season. They were 6-2 to open the season. They ended the season 8-9 on the outside looking at the playoffs. So they need these playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, and I think someone like Todd Bowles would love a guy like Sonny Styles in the middle of his defense to eventually replace Levante David, because they're probably going to bring him back. He doesn't want to retire. It doesn't seem like anyways, because he never wants to retire, because he's still got it. He's still got it. But maybe he comes back, maybe he retires, I don't know. But getting Sonny Styles at 15, regardless of what Levante David is, I think would be a smart move for the Bucs. 16, the New York Jets. one of my favorite things to see in a draft is when a team pairs a rookie quarterback with a rookie wide receiver. And it's a very smart thing to do. We've seen the Cincinnati Bengals do it a couple times. We saw them draft A.J. Green in the first round, draft Andy Dalton in the second round. In 2020, they drafted Joe Burrow and drafted T. Higgins. I think that's a very smart move to build chemistry. The Bills tried to do it with Lee Evans, J.P. Lossman, but that one didn't really work out. That one really didn't work out. And more so on Lossman's part than Evans' part. But that's not important here. We're not talking about the Bills. We're talking about the Jets. Another sad team who's looking to break the Bills' playoff record. They're at 15 years right now. 3 more years, and they break the record. 2 more years to tie it. They got 3 more years to break the record, though. But Mekhi Lemon at 16 would give the Jets a legitimate option on the outside to pair with Garrett Wilson. You also got Adonai Mitchell in there as well. He brought him in from the Indianapolis Colts with the Sauce Gardner trade. Mekhi Lemon is not the biggest dude in the world. 5'11", 195, but the dude has the best hands in the draft class. There were points last year where Jade Maava would put the ball in a spot, and Lemon would go down and make a play on it. I've talked about that Iowa game a bunch, and I know it's going to stick out more to me because I'm an Iowa fan, but that was a game where I looked at Maava, Lemon, Jacoby Lane, and guys like that were like, Iowa just can't defend this. The ball is just getting there. It basically just teleported from Maava's hand to Lemon's hand. That's pretty much what it was. It doesn't matter how many Iowa defenders are grabbing onto Lemon, how many times a defender hits him while he get right before he makes the catch. He's going to make the catch. He's going to come down with it. He's the Blitnikoff Award winner, and which kind of sparked some controversy because you got Jeremiah Smith winning the Big Ten Receiver of the Year. You got Mekhi Lemon winning the Blitnikoff Award this year for the nation's best receiver. So he's not the best receiver in his conference, but he's the best receiver in the nation. Maybe they forgot USC was in the Big Ten. Maybe they forgot about that. I don't know. I don't really know. But they couldn't find him on the Pac-12 mark either. So they were just kind of all sorts confused. But he has the best hands in the draft. Everything that's thrown in that direction, he'll catch. He had 1 drop in 110 targets this past year at USC. He had 79 catches, 1 drop. And not only that, after he makes the catch, in some circus-like fashion, he also will be able to force tackles. He forced 21 missed tackles this past season. And again, we don't know what Dante Moore's future is, but I can promise you this, having a receiving core that features Garrett Wilson, a healthy Garrett Wilson, and Mekhi Lemon would be an excellent move for his long-term success in the NFL, especially if you keep someone like Tyrod Taylor there as the starting quarterback for the time being to help learn him up on the opposite side of the ball. I think that'd be a very smart move. Again, pairing Lemon with Dante Moore, I like it. I mean, I'm biased, of course, because I made this mock draft, but I think it'd be a very smart move for the New York Jets going forward. Again, defensive tackle could be an option here as well, especially after trading Quinnen Williams. Aaron Glenn might want to get some sort of defender in here, but again, I just think it's important to pair young quarterbacks with young receivers. I think they can grow together, learn this team together. They're doing the same things. I think it's a good thing to build success long-term with your franchise. Number 17, the Lions. Tackle and guard are options here. You got Lomu from Utah, we talked about before. Caden Proctor's another option here as well. Vega from Penn State at guard or center could be an option here as well. With Frank Ragnow retiring unexpectedly, then coming back unexpectedly, and then they're like, actually, your hamstring's not attached to your body. You can't play. Taylor Decker's getting older as well, so you could look at an option to replace him. There's a lot of different things the Lions could do on the opposite side of the ball, but I think the defense, looking for someone to partner Aiden Hutchinson along the edge, I think is an important thing for this team going forward, because the team was not very good. Not very good's a stretch. I mean, they finished 9-8, so it's not like they were a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but given that they won 15 games last year, and everybody was looking at the Lions to see what they would do because they lost Ben Johnson, because they lost Aaron Glenn. What is this team going to look like going into this season? We have no clue. But they still have talented players. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams both had 1,000 yards this past season. They've got playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Aiden Hutchinson's coming back. There's no way they could be as injury-prone as what they were last year. That's why they fell in the NFC divisional round to the Commanders. All this stuff. And they're like, no, they're going to be fine still. There was going to be a little bit of a drop-off, but they're going to be fine. But I don't think that drop-off was expected to be coinciding with the fact that they finished last in the division. And I think getting somebody like an edge rusher, I think would be big here to pair with Aiden Hutchinson, because Marcus Davenport, Muhammad, Pascal are all entering free agency this offseason. They don't really have anybody else there. Keldrick Falk feels like a guy the Detroit Lions would look at in the first round. 6'6", 285 pounds. He's a guy we talked about earlier when we talked about the Kansas City Chiefs pick. And I could really see a reality where Falk goes 9 and Bain goes here 17. And I know Bain going 17 seems ridiculous, but given the measurements of Bain, that he's 6'3", 275 pounds, doesn't have a bunch of length to his game. I think that could end up being a factor that sees him fall a little bit, but the production's there. Falk doesn't have the production. But the thing that also boosts up Keldrick Falk is that he's 20 years old. That he's got great size to him. Again, 6'6", 285 pounds. He's got 10 pounds and 3 inches on Ruben Maine. And there's going to be people that are a little bit nervous of that. There's a lot of people that compare him to Michael Williams, and there's some 49ers fans this year that are not too thrilled that they drafted Michael Williams with the 11th overall pick. I've seen comparisons to Greg Rousseau as well. And he can play both inside and outside, which is kind of hope from a guy that's 6'6", 285 pounds. He has good pass rushing moves, good versatility, ability to make plays in the run game. He sets a strong edge there, but he's just not the finished product yet. It's not all the way there yet. So it scares some people with some people completely write players off like this from their draft board because they want to have some sort of production, and he didn't have that. I believe he had 2 sacks this past season while at Auburn, but for the Lions, who would need some playmakers along the defensive line. And you could look at like Cassius Howell from Texas A&M as a potential option here. But I think Falk, if he's available, has the ceiling, the size, versatility, speed, all of that to be a really talented edge rusher at the next level. And I look back to like Shamar Stewart last year. He was a guy where some people could really look at as potential being a top 10 pick in regards to just potential. But the production did weigh a factor. He fell all the way to 17 to Cincinnati Bengals, which is ironically where I have Keldrick Falk going to this draft. But again, I could see a reality where the Chiefs take him at 9 and Bain falls here to 17. But right now, we're just going to keep Falk at 17 for the Lions. And number 18, the Minnesota Vikings, last pick of the mock draft. This is a team that kind of met my expectations. I know they won 14 games last year, but when you have a team like that and everything seems to match up perfectly, it doesn't bode well for the next season. When I say bode well, it's hard to replicate things when everything is working for you. It's really hard to replicate that, especially when you have a first-year starter at quarterback who's coming off a knee injury. Like, there's so many different factors that played into the success of last year that, again, it's just hard to replicate. And was J.J. McCarthy good this year? No. 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, not good. Battled a bunch of injuries throughout the course of the season as well, which I'm pretty sure a lot of Vikings fans are a little upset about. But he's going to be the starter next year. They're gonna bring somebody in. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's gonna go unchallenged, but it'd be like someone like Mac Jones, where you look at Daniel Jones going down to the Colts, where Anthony Richardson, this is your job until it's not. And Daniel Jones took it, and you saw what the Colts were able to do throughout the season before Daniel Jones broke his leg and then snapped his Achilles. Like, you were able to see what he could do there. Mac Jones is somebody coming from San Francisco like Sam Darnold did before. I think that would be the most logical spot for Mac Jones to go, would be the Minnesota Vikings. He wouldn't be guaranteed a starting job, but he'd be given every opportunity to take that from J.J. McCarthy. And like Kevin O'Connell said a couple years ago, organizations fail quarterbacks before quarterbacks fail organizations. So I don't think they're going to go out there. I've seen a lot of people talk about they're trading for Joe Burrow, trading for Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I have a hard time believing that's going to happen, especially with Kevin O'Connell's quotes about that. And I know they went after the offensive line. They got some pieces for the offensive line, completely revamped the interior of the offensive line. And that's what they needed to do. But again, when everything clicks like that last year, it's very hard to replicate that. And you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Vikings, which is where they're probably going to look with this first pick in the draft. The secondary is the big option here. And that was the big option going into last year's draft as well. But obviously the offensive line with J.J. McCarthy coming off a knee injury, they were going to improve the offensive line. That's what they needed to do. They did it, but secondary was a problem area last year as well. And now that Harrison Smith's gone, you don't really have a true, number one guy on the outside for corner. Byron Murphy's good, but is he a true, can you look to him and feel confident saying that's your number one corner on your roster? I don't know. And that's not me saying that he's bad or anything, but I would like to think that the Vikings would go after somebody in this draft to get them a true number one option on that outside, especially, again, we talk about talent in divisions. You look at the quarterbacks that are in the NFC North that the Vikings have to face. Caleb Williams is getting better and better. Jordan Love is there. Jared Goff is there. You look at some of the receivers that they have. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden was awesome this year as a rookie for the Bears. You look at Jamison Williams and Monroe St. Brown. We talked about 2,000-yard receivers for the Detroit Lions back-to-back years. Then you look at the Green Bay Packers. They've got 1,000 number 2 wide receivers on their team, so we're going to have to wait and see what they do with that receiver position. But regardless, there's a lot of offensive talent in this division that the Vikings are going to need to try and cover. And I think Jermon McCoy from Tennessee would be the best option here. I know there's probably going to be talks about Avion Terrell from Clemson, and that would make a lot of sense. But McCoy is somebody that, again, if not for not playing this past year, if not for the torn ACL, would probably be considered the top cornerback in this draft pretty unanimously. But the problem is he's going to slide because of a torn ACL. And he didn't play. We haven't seen him play since 2024. So that's naturally going to see him fall a little bit. But again, if he's here at 18, if the Rams don't take him at 13, if the Bengals and Dolphins don't take him, if the Ravens, don't take him at 14, then why not just sprint up to the board and take him here? Like, his body type and athleticism will see him taken high. He's not. I have a really hard time, unless his medical tests are completely negative and not good at all, then I have everything that is about his game tells me that he's going to be a top 18 pick in the draft. Could he fall to the mid-20s? Yeah, but I have a hard time picturing right now that he's going to be like a Will Johnson where we could see him completely fall out of this first round. I don't really think that. Like, McCoy is a comfortable hand fighter with receivers, possesses speed to keep up with the best of them as well. He's also able to track them down should they happen to get past him, which is very rare, but he has that speed to get past him. I think there's going to be some questions again. I'm going to keep reiterating this because I think it's an important thing to reiterate, is the questions around his medicals and what his injuries looking like, what he's healing like, what his recovery's looking like, all that stuff. I think it's important, but for the Vikings, with all the talent they have in that division, without that true number one alpha at the cornerback position, that's not me bashing Byron Murphy, but giving them a true number one option on the outside at the cornerback position. And that is the mock draft. That is mock draft. It's not 1.0. It's not it's just a pre-postseason mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to check this out down in the description below. The blog post will be available on the LoganBlackmanShow.com. You can also check out the podcast and everything down below as well. And the top 18, just as a reminder, we'll recap this. The Raiders at number 1, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. Number 2, the New York Jets, Dante Moore, quarterback from Oregon. Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals, Ty Simpson, quarterback from Alabama. Number 4, the Tennessee Titans, Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State. New York Giants, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver from Arizona State, could be one of the tackles there as well, especially, again, like we talked about before, with Jackson Dart's unwillingness to protect himself, his lack of care for his own well-being, could see them go after a guy to protect him while he's in the backfield at least. Number 6, the Cleveland Browns, Francis Mauigoa from Miami. Get somebody on the outside line, just somebody. Number 7, the Washington Commanders, Arvell Reese from Ohio State. New Orleans Saints, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Then we got the Kansas City Chiefs at 9, Ruben Bain from Miami. Number 10, Cincinnati Bengals, Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. Number 11, Miami Dolphins, Spencer Fano from Utah, the offensive tackle from Utah. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys, David Bailey from Texas Tech. Los Angeles Rams via the Atlanta Falcons, Mansour Delane from LSU. Number 14, the Baltimore Ravens, Peter Woods, defensive lineman from Clemson. 15, the Buccaneers, Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State. New York Jets via the Indianapolis Colts, Mekhi Lemon from USC. Then number 17, Detroit Lions, Keldrick Falk from Auburn, edge rusher from Auburn. And 18, the Minnesota Vikings, Jermon McCoy from Tennessee, cornerback. Man, a lot of players that we could have gone here. A lot of players that missed out. I feel bad for, but that's how I see the top 18 picks as things stand right now. Again, leave a comment down below on why you feel the way you do about my predictions, whether you love them, whether you hate them, whether you think yours are way better, where your team is picking, what you think. Let me know down in the comment section below. But again, make sure to check out the blog post at theloganblackmanshow.com. That'll be linked down in the description. Also, make sure to check out all the other links down in the description below. Make sure as well to subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this video if you enjoyed it. If you did not, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time. And of course, I'm Logan Blackman, the self-proclaimed draft quote-unquote expert, and I will see you guys later. Peace.